Австрали Welcome.
Сайн байцгаана уу хүн үзэгчдээ. Өнөөдөр ороо манай дефакто нэвтрүүлгийн зочноор Азийн Бүтээмжийн Байгууллагын Ерөнхий нарийн бичгийн дарга элчин сайд ноён Мари Амано оролцож байна.
Amano 1972 онд Токьёгийн Их Сургуулийн Эдийн Засгийн бакалавр, 1976 онд Оксфордиийн Их Сургуулийн Нийгмийн ухааны тусгай диплом тус хүртсэн. Тэрээр мэргэжлийн гараагаа 1973 онд Япон улсын Гадаад Хэргийн Яамнаас эхлэн Их Британи улс дахь Японы элчин сайдын газар, Гадаад Хэргийн Яамны Эдийн Засгийн товчоо, Хойд Америкийн бүсийг хариуцсан товчоонд өөр олон алба хашиж байсан. Эдийн засгийн хамтын ажиллагаа хөгжлийн байгууллагын Япон дахь байнгын хорооны 1-р нарийн бичгийн дарга, Гадаад Хэргийн Яамны Гадаад дахь олон нийтэд харилцах газрын дарга, Таиланд болон Америк нэгдсэн улс дахь Япон улсын элчин сайдын газруудад сайдаар ажиллаж байсан. 2011-ээс 2013 онуудад олон улсын зэвсэг хураах хурлын Японы төлөөлөгчдийн онц бөгөөд бүрэн эрхт элчин сайд байсан бөгөөд 2013 оны 9-р сараас Азийн Бүтээмжийн Байгууллагын Ерөнхий нарийн бичгээр ажиллаж байна.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Welcome to Mongolia.
Thank you very much.
Is it your first visit?
Indeed, it is.
You have been working many years
Yes.
as an ambassador of Japan and to several important organizations. And currently now you are Secretary General of Asia Productivity Organization.
Right.
Why?
Why? It's a long story. Let me start with my career, perhaps. As soon as I graduated from the University of Tokyo, I joined the Ministry of Foreign Affairs as a diplomat.
Mm-hmm.
And then I spent more than 40 years as a professional diplomat. Why I did so, very simple answer is because my elder brother joined the Foreign Service 1 year before I did. So it was only natural for me to follow the steps of my elder brother.
How many brothers?
I have one.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Your elder brother is doing now?
He retired from the Japanese Foreign Service and then he joined the International Atomic Energy Agency as Director General.
Okay, we call it in the Russian, or in Mongolia also MAGATE, which is
is
in Vienna, right?
It is, yes. IAEA is the abbreviation.
Yes, it's in English version.
Yes, indeed.
Well, two brothers,
Yes.
two diplomats, both
Yeah.
you were a Deputy Secretary General of OECD too.
I was, yes.
And then later on you were at the disarmament conference, right?
I was the ambassador of Japan to the Conference of Disarmament.
Uh-huh.
And yes.
And this is like your brother, I understand, is one of the very interesting, highest ranking diplomatic international work that Japanese ambassadors can have.
He experienced the post of Japanese ambassador to the international organizations in Vienna, including IAEA.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, he applied for the post of the Director General of the IAEA, and he was elected 4 years ago. Yes.
And so you are being a diplomat, and now being a Secretary General, which is de facto you are running the office of Asia
Indeed,
Productivity
yes.
Organizations.
Right.
Please tell us about the organization.
Okay, this is a very small international organization established in 1961.
Mm-hmm.
Its headquarters is in Tokyo, and it consists of 20 member countries, including, of course, Mongolia. Mongolia joined APO in 1992, and so it's some 20 years ago. Now, why this organization was created in 1961, I believe that it was about the beginning of the success of the economic recovery of Japan. Throughout the 50s, we strived very strongly to rebuild our economy from the aftermath of the Second World War. By the early 60s, I think Japan was accepted by the international society as a member of the international society again. The economy was going very well. Why? Basically, because the United States offered them the most advanced technology to the Japanese business and the industry. And since we were quite successful, perhaps our senior people at that time thought that why do we not share this with other Asian countries? And instead of taking the form of bilateral economic assistance, they thought that it would be better to form an international organization where all the member countries have equal footing sort of status. And eventually they wanted to have this organization as a sort of the arena where Asian countries do share their experiences and learn from each other. And I think the things have turned out as they expected now. We have some 70 programs a year, and this is basically training program where we invite each sort of one person from each member country, making the team like 20, 24, at least sort of moderate size. And they take up very different sort of subjects, varying from, say, industrial process to agriculture, service sector, or these days public sector is becoming very important. But the topics is always productivity. Why? Because our mission is to contribute to the socio-economic development of Asian countries through enhanced productivity.
Interesting thing, you talked about productivity in public sector, which I think is very actual issue for this country.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. And in that sense, what kind of programs you do for increasing the productivity of public offices?
We can address whatever subject, but basically our method is to work through national productivity organizations because we are too small. Our budget is too small to directly engage in the training of the people.
You provide a trainer?
Exactly. We try to provide a course to train the trainers. And those trainers, after receiving this training course, go back to their member own countries, and then they conduct the same sort of
I see.
Courses.
You know, I now happen your organization appear productivity data book.
Right.
And in which you are enhancing a lot about the per hour productivity.
That's
of
one way.
Each country.
Yes.
And very stunning, interesting facts. They compared to Japanese average worker and Mongolian worker or Thailand, quite different. And showing that productivity level, measuring. What is the main purpose of this data book?
Yes. This is one of the flagship publications for our organization because no other international organizations or any institutions have conducted the comparison of the productivity even among the Asian countries. Now, you talked about this comparison between, say, Mongolia and Japan or any other country. But interesting is that you can't say Japan is advanced in productivity in every area, or some other member countries behind that in every area. It depends very much on the sector by sector, or how you measure the productivity. So that's another reason why we have a huge potential by learning from each other. I'm afraid Japan is not running in front anymore in every area. Perhaps peak has already gone, but still...
well, maybe ahead.
No, well, I wish I could, yeah.
You have a program called Center of Excellence.
Yes.
What is that about?
Our Center of Excellence is a program to designate a member country in various areas for 2 years period. And during those 2 years period, that country would play a sort of role of a leader. And if Center of Excellence on green growth, for example, in case of that, we designate, as a result of the agreement, of course, among the member countries, Republic of China for 2 years. So now the Republic of China, Taiwan, is expected to lead or take initiative, let's say, towards the goal of Center of Excellence for green growth. Green growth is one area.
Well, that subject is very now also popular.
It is.
In Mongolia, we talk about green economy.
It's exactly the same thing.
Somebody is telling that, look, we are completely brown economy, the color of our coal, let's say. And while we have a brown economy, we should convert it into green economy.
Indeed.
And in fact, it is this how much greener is the color is a certain way of productivity measurement too.
We are not talking about the color of the desert.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know whether the Mongolian economy is that brown or maybe perhaps it's greener than you might imagine or many people imagine. Green is a little sort of abstract way of describing the sort of nature of the economy. I think there are two areas where we can be greener. One is to create new industry or new technology which is green. Green, I mean by this sense, is something which brings about less burden on ecological way. And the other area is to make existing production process, for example, green, less, more friendly, more eco-friendly, let's say. By taking these sort of two aspects, there are several areas there where we can promote the greening of the existing economy.
Welcome.
You have been a career diplomat for Japan, and I saw in your bio that you have been studying also in Oxford.
Yes.
Was that a particular program those days to work with Japanese foreign affairs office in between Oxford?
No, actually, I joined the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in 1973, and 1 year after that, all newly recruited diplomats were sent abroad for language study. And in my case, I chose United Kingdom to study English. So basically, I was there to study English. But simply going to language school is not sort of intellectually satisfactory enough. So I chose a course.
Language is a tool.
It's a tool, yes. Through some subjects, I wanted to study English. Many people went to the United States, many other people went to France, but I just simply chose UK as my
if you were happy with you said Hertford College of University of Oxford.
It was very, very, I enjoyed the life at there for 2 years. It was a very nice 2 years pay leave, let's say, for young diplomats. And this system still goes on now.
So then after that, you were ambassador to which country?
It's almost 35 years later since I went to Oxford. I was designated as ambassador to, actually, a conference of disarmament in Switzerland.
As ambassador.
As ambassador.
Otherwise, before you were to to consul general in Houston.
In Houston, Texas, yes. And then I moved to New York there to work in an international, yet another small international organization called KEDO.
Which is?
That's a Korean Peninsula Energy Development Organization. It's a very, very special organization established among the United States, Korea, Japan, and later the EU. And the idea was to build 2 nuclear reactors in and for North Korea in return for the peace.
Okay.
North Korea committed that they would suspend or stop, abandon all the nuclear programs they had in return.
Okay.
Since that commitment was not implemented after several years, while I was there, we had to suspend first and then cancel the project completely by 2009, I think, yes.
Well, speaking about North Korea, speaking about that part, recently we have seen more, experiencing more tensions between Japan, China, Japan, Korea. Why now? The issue was always before, but now why is it getting so much hot?
Well, I don't know whether I'm very well qualified to, comment on that kind of very highly political issue. If I may express my sort of personal view, I believe that it's partly because the very rapidly growing Chinese economy. When the economy is growing that rapid and reached at a very, very high level, China is now number 2 economy
by
in
size.
The world. Certain percentage of the budget should be given to the military sector. Now China can afford more powerful navy, more powerful army and air force. There's no reason for them not to do that. And therefore, it tried to expand its sort of influence over the Pacific Ocean. And if they do that, then it's naturally sort of, say, potential conflict or conflict of interest, I believe, with those powers which had the sort of influence over that, same area. So it's a little bit unavoidable, let's say, until we see the sort of the line which would give a sort of sense of balance, perhaps, for all parties concerned.
Very nice explanation. Thank you. I'd like to go back to your career as a second person in such an important organization like OECD. Please, who can be a member of OECD?
Okay.
And what does that mean, be a member in their organizations?
Again, a little long story, but OECD started as an organization to coordinate and distribute the aid fund given by the United States to all the European countries, the Western European countries at that time. At that time, it was all called OEEC. We had the word European instead of development. From there, they developed into a sort of global, say, organization in early 60s. Since then, the membership kept expanding year after year. While I was there were 30 member countries. And there were perhaps 3-4 sort of waves of expansion. And since I left the OECD, there was yet another sort of wave of expansion. So I believe the membership has even expanded to include some of the East European countries, Latvia, no, sorry.
Former Soviet.
And the Latin American country, like Colombia.
Yes.
There's no clear-cut definition or qualification to become a member. But for the case of Japan, for example, Japan became a member of the OECD in 1964. 3 years after the creation of the APO. That's a very interesting thing. There were many codes agreed upon in OECD. And those candidates who like to become a member of the OECD should at least commit to abide by those codes. Those codes are various, but for example, one of the difficult challenge Japan had in entering the OECD was the control over the foreign investment. We were asked to liberate that, to lift any restrictions. But at that time, I remember that Japan still reserved 4 areas as an exception from that liberalization of the foreign direct investment, and it was accepted. So there's a long sort of negotiations with the candidate country. For example, now Russia is a candidate for, and there was already over 5 years of negotiation with Russia, in not only in the area of the direct investment, but everywhere, as many as the number of the committees of the OECD. So after that, the negotiation, when the accession is accepted at their council, then country becomes a member.
See, I'm asking the question also because Chile, for example, their universities, higher education institutions have a curriculum which is sort of in accordance with the requirement by OECD.
Oh, I see.
And the diploma received by graduates there is accepted, recognized in another countries of OECD.
Oh.
So what I mean is maybe that sort of standard, the sort of requirements of many education, infrastructure maybe, those maybe could be a good help for a country like Mongolia.
I was not aware of that university diploma, but I can imagine, yes, that the OECD has a kind of set standard, and all member countries are expected to abide by that, but there's no penalty, for example. That's the difference from an ordinary convention or international treaty. But if this failure of commitment or standard continues, there's a process of, say, review. In every area in every policy area, they usually have a sort of periodical review process. Tax policy review, agriculture process, policy review.
A review in the sense that you consider review and then advise certain things
Yes,
to improve.
indeed. Yes.
Well, that's something which is very important.
The very interesting, unique point is that those who review the member are also from members.
Okay.
So it's a kind of peer review process.
Like the 360. Like
once you review, then next time you will be the reviewing side in a team. Usually we have 4 or 5 countries forming a reviewing team to go to that country and conduct the review process in various policy areas. And they are assisted by the Secretariat.
From recently, I think Mongolia is now being engaged with a project about competitiveness with OECD. And I hope it will give some light to Mongolians where and how we can work with OECD, such organizations.
Oh, that's very interesting, because as a result of review, there will be a sort of advice that the reviewers find useful for that reviewed countries. It may go a very long list of, say, 40 items, 50 items. Again, you're not obliged to abide by those recommendations, because the recommendations are, after all, recommendations. But sometimes those recommendations are very useful. It's not a kind of, say, examination of policies to see whether any policy is against the international standard or not. It's not like that.
I see.
The idea is how Mongolia, in this case, can better conduct competition policy, and what will be the concrete sort of suggestions that they can make to you. Whether you take it or not, it's up to you. So this is a sort of very standard way of conducting the review. And through this review process, OECD tries to share the best practices all through the member countries.
Well, that's our hope, that there will be this sort of positive outcome of the cooperation. Let's go back to our productivity organizations, where you had a very focused work from the beginning about the food chain, about
food chain.
agriculture,
Yes.
agriculture and
Yes.
food chain, and wherever you have been working APO, you were helping the countries to be more productive
Yeah.
in a value chain of food.
Yes.
Please tell us about that a little bit.
Okay, I believe that this is a program with a special funding from the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Fishery of Japan. And this is a program continuing for 5 years. And our special focus is on less developed sort of members. But the content of the course is always to share this knowledge about this most advanced or technologies and system in the food chain. And agriculture is still very, very important part of the industry in many, many member countries.
See, will you do, for example, this sort of program in Mongolia, because we have a very high priority in food sector, because the animal husbandry is something that Mongolians were traditionally very good.
Okay.
We have a good quality meat, milk, etc.
Yeah.
And yet, the city is importing over 70% of milk, milk from abroad.
Yeah,
So it's a time to produce ourselves.
very interesting.
So how will you do this sort of project in Mongolia?
Okay, now 2 ways. This course, for example, is a course called multinational program, where we invite normally one participant, sometimes 2 participants from one country, and we extend our invitation to all the member countries. So altogether there will be a group of 20-25 people studying this subject in host country. Host country can be, in this case Japan, but can be any member country who volunteers to host this program.
Will you do then a sort of research work in this field? Say,
this is a training sort of program.
okay,
I believe.
training program.
Now, if there's a specific issue that Mongolia has and Mongolia wants to find the solution, there's another way, and this is what we call country program. Mongolia says that, well, we have this problem and we have these challenges that we would like to find a solution, and we would like to have, say, lectures by very experienced experts, and then we find appropriate resource person, not only limited from the member countries, but from outside the member countries as well. And then we support the APO from the contribution from member countries, support the expense to organize that. Whereas the Mongolian side is responsible to gather, say, participants. And the participants is not limited to any set number, but usually it's 20, 40,
Well, I think this is some subject, I think, down the road that Mongolians will be the most interested.
Yeah.
And now in our agenda, we talk about competitiveness. And when we talk about competitiveness, we talk about productivity. Per input unit, the result of output. We want to have more and we want to export. Meanwhile, on the way, we want to replace in these areas of food, for example, replace import, not in all areas.
Right.
So I think that could be something that you make a difference in this country, your organization.
Very much so, I hope, yes.
Okay, now our time is getting finished. I
right.
suggest, can we, a little bit, please advise, what does it take to be a diplomat?
Oh,
Because
that's a very, very general question.
You are the right the person to ask the questions.
I don't believe that I've been a very good diplomat, but one very important, characteristics any diplomat is required is to keep intellectual curiosity.
Wow.
One has to be very curious intellectually at anything.
Yep.
And qualification-wise, I would always say that the sense of balance is the last, most important thing. You may sometimes like to conclude, draw conclusions, but that conclusion has to be in a very well balanced manner. So the sense of balance is the.
I want to ask about the make clear the understanding of a word samurai for Japanese person.
Yes.
Is samurai philosophy important today for Japanese person?
Well, you may characterize samurai as someone who is carrying two long and short swords, but that's a very, very sort of superficial way of looking at samurai. The role of samurai has always been government official. We had central government, Tokugawa shogunate, and also the local governments, as many as 100. There were feudal laws there, but those people who supported the governance of the local, regional government are samurais. So in a way, we had a history of bureaucracy in a very good sense.
Yes.
And those are the samurais. The only difference is that those bureaucrats were also soldiers and generals and officers. They were given both the sort of civil power and also the arms power. That's the only thing.
Well, why short and long swords?
Oh,
Why two?
well, there was a regulation that nobody can carry two swords except samurai.
Wow.
Which means that you can wear one long sword. And members of, little violent organizations, like gamblers, for example, used to have one sword. Three swords you can't handle with two hands. That's why it's only
No
two.
need.
No need.
One or two.
Yeah, two
Or
swords.
nothing.
Yeah, and there were some samurais who were skillful in handling two swords at the same time.
Wow.
Why one should be short, I don't know.
Okay. Bushido, what is the relations
Well,
with samurai?
The supreme value samurai respected was Bushido. And there's a very well-known book written by one of the samurai in Kyushu area. Says that the essence or the spirit of some Bushido is to think how to die. And this phrase became so well known and was interpreted in a wrong way during the World War II, for example. That is why this kamikaze was so encouraged. But the real meaning, how to die, is exactly the same thing as how to live. So to make your life meaningful, or to make your life useful for the society, is the most important teaching of Bushido, I think. That's how I interpret it.
Well, certainly.
And if I may say, I would like to practice that even now, if it's not too late.
Do you exercise?
Oh, not physically.
Okay. But what makes you that energetic?
Well, stress-free.
Is it way of living, or how
Try to be as natural as you can. Try to get rid of any sort of stressful things. Yeah.
Well, as natural as you can.
As natural as you can, perhaps.
There is a philosophy called water like mind.
Exactly. And then I believe this is something to do with the Mongolian mentality. Live in the nature and respect for the nature.
Yeah, and
Never
unfortunately we're a little bit deviating from that philosophy. And I hope we will go back, we will love more nature, we will be in harmony with the nature. And
exactly.
Certainly an organization like yours and your member organization in Mongolia will help us to do so.
I hope so, and I will do my best.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
For coming
It was
to
very
this program.
nice
Thank
talking
you
with
very
you.
much.